Hello, hello. This is Edith Neumeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. And if you have not looked at my book yet, well, you can do that still. But it's almost Christmas, and even though I do not celebrate Christmas, I'm usually pretty glad when these holidays are over. People, they're just out there shopping and so much traffic, and I really don't like that. I don't. Every year I get too nervous with all these people. So I have still my family over. I'm getting ready to do all these things. And, well, my family are my kids, and that's about it. And we just spend time together as a family. We're just going to have a dinner. And so today, though, I want to talk about Revelation. I think this is the 7th part because the 6th part is the temple. And so we are going to chapter 12 and 13. I have already done a video, or 2 videos, I believe, about, on the same subject, and I'll put them underneath so you can look at those as well. So today I'm going a little faster, okay, just to kind of give you, make a really strong connection to Revelation as a whole and how to put this on the timeline. Here, again, John has a vision. It's a different vision, okay? Different vision. Remember, John had separate visions, and these visions are not chronological. They may overlap, okay? So, in this case, 12 and 13, chapter 12 and 13, go together. And that's the most important thing to remember, that both of them go together, and they are a time span since the time of the birth of Jesus until today. Okay, today. And you'll see that. So it ends really with today. That's a long period of time. That's 2,000 years. But I just want to really clarify that this is not talking about the birth of the church. This is really about the birth of Jesus, the one who will rule the world, okay, with an iron rod, I think it says. But let's look at it. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and with the moon, and with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. This woman, it's a woman. Woman symbolizes what? A ecclesia, a church, a assembly of believers, people, okay? This is not just descendants of Abraham, because we can see the 12 stars are symbolizing the 12 tribes of Israel, okay? So this is a woman that comes out of Israel. And this, again, is a woman, and they are believers. The non-believers are not counted. It's not all of Israel. It's only the believing Israel, okay? Of course, we know that this woman gave birth to who? Messiah. We see that in a little bit, okay? So this woman is believing Israel, but we know that at the end only the Jews were left over and Benjamin, okay? The other tribes were gone. And so it comes out of Judah as it was promised to David. Not Solomon, but Nathan. I think we already talked about that as well. So that's where this Messiah comes out of. It was promised to Daniel in Daniel 9, the 70th week, that out of the Jews comes Messiah. Okay? So this is what we're talking about. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. Now you need to understand, you need to keep this picture in mind, because we will see a similar beast coming out of the sea. It looks similar to this dragon. Okay? And there's a reason why. And the tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. So in other words, 1/3 of the, here is stars. We already said before that stars could mean angels. And here it actually means angels. Okay? 1/3 of the stars. It's not 1/3 of the stars up there, but 1/3 of the angels fell with Satan, with the dragon. And they were thrown on this earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and his throne. So he died, but also he was resurrected and he went up into heaven. That's when he defeated the dragon. Okay? And we'll see later on that the dragon was kicked out of heaven because of this, because he defeated the dragon. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Okay? Who is the woman again? It's ecclesia. It's the believing Jews. Who are those? The disciples, the first disciples and the first people that believed in Jesus Christ. Okay? That's now this woman. This assembly of believers. And they had to flee. Okay? We know in a little bit why this woman did flee. Because the dragon went after her. Okay? We know that Jesus told the disciples in Matthew 24 that the temple will be destroyed and the city. And they need to flee before they see the signs, or else they will be killed. And that's the way it was. And they did. All of them did flee. The whole church of Jerusalem did flee Judea and went into exile. Okay? John and his mother, or Jesus' mother, went to Ephesus. Okay, I already talked about that. So this woman fled into the wilderness. Now, a war broke out in heaven. Here we see a little more what was going on. Remember I said when Jesus Christ went into heaven, there was no more room found for the dragon. And so Michael fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. They were kicked out. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So now he has to make a new home. Okay? When did this happen? It happened when Jesus went into heaven. Okay? The fight with the dragon started. There was no more room. When Jesus defeated the dragon, Satan, on the cross, he had to leave. He could no longer accuse the brethren, which we will see here in a minute. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of Jesus Christ has come. For the accuser of our brethren who accused them before God day and night has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they did not love their lives, to the death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knew that he has only a short time. Okay? So this is what happens. We can see that. He was cast out because he was accusing the brethren, not the the pagan Christians or the Gentile Christians or the Gentile believers, but all of them since the beginning of time. Remember, they were under the altar in chapter 6, and they were screaming out, how much longer, God, will you, wait until you avenge our blood? These were all of them. And he accused them all the time until Jesus came up and said, hey, it's done. I paid for them. You can't accuse them any longer. Okay? So, but now Satan is thrown on this earth, and that's why he did have much wrath, and now he started, of course, persecuting first the church in Jerusalem, the first believers in Messiah. They were persecuted first. And then we see that he persecutes also the Gentile believers. Okay? So, but first he persecutes the saints, and we saw that. Now, when the dragon saw that he had been cast to earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, which are the Jewish believers. But the woman was given to wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. So this is now explaining more about her going into the wilderness, which we have seen a while ago. A lot of times this is what the writers do. They go back and explain something prior better. Okay? In itself, it is chronological, but sometimes they go back and explain previous things. And he does that right here. What happened, when she went into the wilderness? Well, she was persecuted by Satan. Okay, so she went into the wilderness. But the woman was given to wings, so could fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a times and a half from the presence of the serpent. That's, I think, 1,000, how much is it? 1,260 days. I think that's the same thing. Okay. So, the serpent, and that's in 15, the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring. This is when he now goes to the Gentile believer, the Gentile church. Okay? Those are the seed of the woman as well. Okay? They came out of that. They were evangelized. Make war with the rest of her offspring. Okay? Who keeps the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Those are the Gentile churches. They were now persecuted by Satan as well. Now, what we see next is a continuation, because now we're going to Revelation 13, but the vision continues. Okay, the vision continues. So after he persecuted the saints, or even while he was persecuting the saints, because that happened for a long time, the persecution, right? That happened until the Reformation. The saints were persecuted. Even after the Reformation, even today, the saints are persecuted by Satan. He's deceiving them today. That's persecution. Okay? Today we are still being deceived and being persecuted. So then John stood on the sand of the sea. Okay? Continues. And I saw a beast rising up out of the sea. Now, This is still Satan throwing out his wrath. Okay? He now is creating his own world empire, because this is now his home. The earth is his home. And he has to create a world empire because he doesn't have very much time left to confuse the believers or the whole world. He's going to have to he's going to make sure that not all people will accept Jesus as Messiah. So what does he do? He creates his own empire. Now, this was during the time when he persecuted the saints. Okay? When did Satan start his empire? How do we know? We know from Daniel 7 that there's 4 beasts. And the last beast was different than the first beast. So the first 3 beasts are just regular world empires. But with the 4th beast, something happened. I believe at first it was just a beast when the Roman Empire was in existence. But after the Roman Empire fell, the beast didn't really fall. It got 10 horns. And those 10 horns are the continuation of the beast. With that, Satan revived, in a sense, the Roman Empire. And he made it into his own likeness. Remember? 7 heads, 10 horns? That's his likeness. That's what he had. He had 7 heads, 10 horns. The dragon. We saw that at the beginning. Okay? Or the beginning of 12. So, here is now this new beast. Now, this new beast started right after the fall of the Roman Empire. The 10 horns are the European kingdoms. And you know from Daniel 7, go back there, there's a little horn in the middle. Okay? Now, we don't see that little horn here. But in 17, chapter 17, we will see a description, a better description of that little horn, who it is, and we can maybe identify it better. Now, if you followed my videos, you know that little horn is who? Little horn is papacy, who ruled all the kingdoms, okay, of Europe. He is the one who actually was instrumental to give power to those 10 horns. And we read that as well, okay, that this little horn gave power to the 10 horns because he ruled them. Okay, so this is what we then see right here. If you compare Daniel 7, the last beast out of the earth, with this beast out of the earth. Now again, Daniel saw it a little bit different than John. John saw the 7 heads, which Daniel didn't see, or didn't describe. He didn't describe it. Okay? So, but this is important to see that because it's now showing very clearly that this beast is in the likeness of the dragon. Who created the empire? It's not one man. This beast is not one man. So many people believe that this beast is one man. It's the Antichrist. No, it doesn't say that. It's the beast. It's an empire. It's a political system. A beast is always a political system. Look at the beast in Daniel 7. You have the Babylonian kingdom, Persian, Greek, and then Rome. Those were the 4 beasts of Daniel 7. And you see the last beast here again. So when you know the Roman Empire fell and got the 10 horns, you know when that happened. Long, long time ago, people. Long time ago. Okay? Long time ago. Matter of fact, today, these heads of the beast, one was wounded, we're going to see in a little bit here. The dragon gave him his power. You see this? Well, first let's read how it looks. Okay? Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, with his feet but his feet were like the feet of a bear, and the mouth like a mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him the power. The dragon gave him power. Okay, why? Because he created it. His throne and great authority. Okay? So this kingdom that was made in the likeness of Satan, of course, that's where they got all the rulers of Europe, got their power from this dragon. And what did they call themselves? The Holy Roman Empire. Have you heard that word? Holy Roman Empire? Yeah. And they made us believe it was a Christian empire. And yet, these people worshipped the dragon, Satan. Did they know it? Don't know. I think those elites know that they're worshiping the dragon, Lucifer. I think they do know it. Okay? So one of the heads had a deadly wound. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. Not one ruler, but the beast, the system. Now, one head was wounded. When did that happen? You know, that could have actually happened after the First and Second World War. Okay? That beast system was extremely wounded. Okay? When all the empires came down, the Austrian Empire, the German Empire, the Russian Empire, they all came down after the First and Second World War. They were gone. Okay? So that's when this head wound could have happened to this system, this European system. But it was what? The wound was healed. What do we have today? The European Commonwealth, or the Europe? Okay? So I think if you look at that, this is very important, that this is a beast. It's not one man, and it's not the Antichrist really. We will see who's going to rule this beast in a little bit. And we have to reckon with that too, because this little horn on top is definitely part of the beast. Yeah, it is part of the beast. Okay? We have to really acknowledge that. You can't separate the horn from the beast, but we will see that in chapter 17. So they worshiped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, who is able to make war with him. Do you know the beast, Europe as a whole? It doesn't matter whether it was ruled by Spain or England or Portugal or anybody. They all ruled the whole world. They took turns really ruling the whole world. It doesn't matter. They warred with each other as well. But as a whole, they dominated the whole world. Africa, India, America, okay, they dominated the world. So who is like him? And he was given a mouth to speak great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. Now, how did he do that? How did the rulers of Europe do that? Because they followed the Pope and did what the Pope told them, or else the Pope would have taken them out. Not until the Reformation did all rulers of Europe follow the Pope and did what the Pope said. Except I think one of them, the English guy that started his own church, okay? But everybody else did what the Pope said. And because they did what the Pope said, they also blasphemed the saints. They blasphemed God because they didn't follow the correct religion. They bowed down to the Pope. Okay, this whole system is corrupt. They slain the saints. Because see, it wasn't the Pope that only did kill the saints, but he used the rulers of Europe to do it. Okay? They used the soldiers to kill the saints, to persecute them, to torture them to death. So that's why they both did it. The papacy and the rulers. He used the rulers. Until they finally said, after the Reformation, or during the Reformation, they said, many of them said, no, we're not going to follow the Pope anymore. And especially Germany. Okay? The German emperors said, no, we're not following the Pope anymore. And that's why they actually fell. Okay? That's why they fell. All who dwell on the earth will worship him whose name have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. Okay? So they all will worship. Okay? They will worship the system. They will follow the system. They will not rebel against it. They will follow it. And if anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. How did they bow down to the system? Because they went to war for it. They didn't stand up and rebelled against it. That did come after the Reformation, okay, that many rebelled against the system. So, yeah, there was kind of a head wound to this whole system because people rebelled, because they wanted freedom. And you know where that ended up. This longing for freedom ended up in the United States, in the founding of the United States. And we'll talk about this in the next video because we're coming actually to an end here. I don't want to continue. I think I need to just really stop here and not go any further and then talk about the beast out of the earth next time. But you do see how one thing goes into the other. It's a historical account. Chapter 12 and 13 is a historical account of what happened since the time of Christ's birth, and how Satan took over, and how he transformed his world empire into his likeness, and how he used that world empire to get to the saints, to kill the saints, and to enslave the rest of mankind. Now, so many think that this hasn't happened yet. And so many think that, oh, this beast is the Antichrist. No, this is not Antichrist. This beast is a political system that's been around since the fall of Rome. Okay? Since the fall of Rome. Satan has tampered with Rome and then led everything to the coming up of the 10 horns, and he called it the Holy Roman Empire. What a strange name to call the empire, Holy Roman Empire, right? And he made it look like it's a Christian nation, because who did he use? He used papacy to rule it, okay? Everybody had to bow down to the Pope, or their head would have gone off, or somebody else would have been on the throne. That's the way it was. Okay? That's the way it was. If you know about the Reformation, you know how they went against many European emperors or kings or rulers went against the Pope. And that caused a war, a huge war, 30-year war. Okay? And that definitely wounded the system, the beast. But it recovered. And today we have the European Union, not nation, European Union. Okay? But there's going to be another beast, another empire that comes out of the earth. And who in the world is that? But we will talk about that the next time. So I hope you will watch these videos that I made a while back. And then next time, I hope to see you again soon. And let the Holy Spirit guide you always. You have questions, please let me know. If you think, that what I'm saying is wrong, but I'm just reading the Bible. Okay? I'm just reading what the Bible tells you. You just can't put your own interpretation in it. You're going to have to see what it says right here. I'm not saying, this beast kind of, who knows when this beast is coming somewhere, who knows when. Well, who was around, since the time of Jesus Christ? Okay? Where did Satan go? Did he hide? Sometime he was kicked out of heaven? He was around. All right. But the Holy Spirit guides you always.